The phone rang at 7:42 on a Friday evening. I was sitting alone in my living room, enjoying the first quiet evening I had had all week. A cup of tea was resting on the table beside me, and an old movie was playing softly on the television. I looked at the screen of my phone. It was my daughter-in-law, Claire. I already knew why she was calling. For the past several months, Friday nights had become a routine I never agreed to. Claire would call me at the last minute, usually just a few hours before she and my son wanted to go somewhere. And every time she spoke as though she wasn't asking me for a favor. She was giving me an order. That night, I answered, "Hello. Mom, you need to come over tomorrow morning." There was no greeting. No, how are you? No, do you have plans? Just an instruction. I leaned back in my chair. Tomorrow morning, why? I have plans. Daniel and I are going out tonight, and we are probably going to be exhausted tomorrow. You'll babysit the kids. I was silent for a moment. Claire continued, "I need you at my house by 8. I looked at the clock. 8 in the morning. Yes, 8. Claire, I already have plans tomorrow." There was a pause. Then her voice became colder. "You'll babysit because I said so." I couldn't believe what I had just heard. I had spent years helping that family. I had picked up her children from school. I had cooked meals when Claire was sick. I had stayed overnight when one of the children had a fever. I had even canceled appointments because she needed someone to watch the kids. And somehow, none of that had ever been treated as a favor. It had become an expectation, a responsibility that Claire believed belonged to me. I took a slow breath. Then I gave her one answer. No. Silence. For the first time since I had known Claire, she didn't immediately have something to say. "What did you say?" I said no. "You can't be serious." "I am, but I already made plans." "I understand. So you're going to ruin our evening because you're suddenly being difficult." I almost laughed. Suddenly, I had been saying yes for years. I had simply never said no. "Claire," I said calmly, "your plans are not my responsibility." She became angry. "You're the grandmother." "Yes," I replied. "I'm their grandmother. I'm not their unpaid babysitter." She hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand. For a few seconds, I felt guilty. Then something unexpected happened. I felt relieved. That night, I went to bed without setting an alarm for 7. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for someone else to decide what I was allowed to do with my own time. But I didn't know that my one small no was about to change my entire relationship with my family. The next morning, I woke up naturally. There was no knocking on my door, no urgent phone call, no message saying, "Where are you?" I made breakfast, opened the curtains, and sat by the window. Around 9:30, my phone started ringing. It was my son, Daniel. I answered. "Hi, Mom. Good morning. Did Claire call you last night?" "Yes." He sighed. "Mom, I'm sorry." Those words surprised me. Daniel was usually caught between Claire and me. He loved his wife, but he also knew how demanding she could be. "What happened?" I asked. "She told me you refused to babysit." "I did." "She says you're angry with her." "I am disappointed with her, Daniel." "That's different." He was quiet. Then he said, "She thinks you've changed." "I have." "What does that mean?" "It means I've finally realized that being a good mother doesn't mean saying yes to everything." Daniel didn't answer. I could hear him breathing on the other end. Then he said something that stayed with me. "Mom, I think you should come over." "Why?" "I want to talk to you." I agreed. An hour later, I drove to their house. When I arrived, the children ran toward me. "Grandma!" I hugged both of them. Their smiles reminded me why I had tolerated so much. I loved those children more than anything. But loving them didn't mean I had to accept disrespect from their mother. Claire was standing in the kitchen. She didn't greet me. Daniel walked into the room. Mom, sit down. We sat at the dining table. Claire crossed her arms. I don't understand what happened to you. I looked at her. Nothing happened to me. You've always helped us. Yes. So why did you suddenly decide you don't want to? That's not what I said. Then what did you say? I said I won't be ordered around anymore. Her face changed. I never ordered you around. I looked at Daniel, then back at Claire. Last night you said you'll babysit because I said so. She didn't respond. That sounds like an order to me. Claire rolled her eyes. I was stressed. I understand. You don't understand. Then explain it. She stood up. You have no idea how difficult my life is. I stayed seated. I know raising children is difficult. No, you don't. I raised two children. That was different. Perhaps, I said. But difficulty doesn't give anyone the right to treat another person like a servant. The room became quiet. Daniel finally spoke. Claire, Mom has a point. Claire looked at him as if he had betrayed her. You're taking her side? I'm not taking sides. Yes, you are. No, Daniel said. I'm saying we shouldn't expect Mom to drop everything every time we make plans. Claire turned toward me. So what, you don't want to be a grandmother anymore? The question hurt. I looked at her carefully. I never said that. You're acting like it. I want to be your children's grandmother. I want to attend their birthdays. I want to take them to the park. I want to have dinner with them. Then why won't you babysit? Because I want to choose when I help. That sentence changed the atmosphere. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't shout. I didn't insult her. But for the first time, I had clearly explained the boundary I should have established years earlier. 3 days later, Claire called again. This time, her voice was different. Could you watch the kids Saturday afternoon? I asked. What time? From 2 until 5. I can do that. Thank you. I smiled. You're welcome. It was a small conversation, but it felt like a completely different relationship. There was no command. There was a request. And I realized something important. Sometimes people don't realize they're taking advantage of you until you stop allowing them to. Over the next few weeks, things slowly changed. Claire didn't become a different person overnight. She still had moments when she became demanding. But now I didn't automatically say yes. If she asked respectfully and I was available, I helped. If I had plans, I said no. And I stopped explaining myself for hours. No, I can't. That was enough. At first, Claire seemed confused by it, then irritated. Eventually, she began to accept it. But one Sunday afternoon, something happened that I never expected. I was sitting in my kitchen when Daniel arrived alone. He looked worried. Mom, can we talk? Of course. He sat down. I need to tell you something. What is it? He looked at the floor. Claire has been struggling. With what? Everything. He rubbed his hands together. She feels like she's failing as a mother. I felt my heart soften. For all the arguments, I had never wanted Claire to suffer. What happened? She thinks she can't manage everything. Why didn't she tell me? She doesn't like admitting she needs help. I nodded. That sounds familiar. Daniel smiled slightly. She gets that from me. We both laughed. Then he became serious again. Mom, I think she was treating you badly because she was overwhelmed. I understand being overwhelmed. I know. But being overwhelmed doesn't excuse disrespect. I agree. He looked at me. Would you be willing to talk to her? I will. That evening, Claire came over. She looked tired. Not angry. Not defensive. Just tired. She sat across from me. I owe you an apology. I didn't respond immediately. She continued. I've been treating you like you're obligated to help us. Yes, I know. She looked down. I don't know when it started. I do. She looked up. When? The first time I said yes when I wanted to say no. She was quiet. I continued. I kept saying yes because I didn't want conflict. I thought being helpful would make everyone happy. Did it? No. She nodded. I think I started expecting it. You did. I treated your kindness like a responsibility. Yes. Her eyes became wet. I'm sorry. I reached across the table. I accept your apology. She took a breath. But I need you to understand something too. What? You don't have to earn my love. She looked at me. You're my daughter-in-law. You're the mother of my grandchildren. You're part of this family, even after how I treated you. Yes. Why? Because forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means choosing not to let what happened destroy everything that can still be good. She wiped her eyes. I wish I'd understood that sooner. So do I. Months passed. Our relationship changed. Not perfectly, but honestly. Claire began asking instead of demanding. I began speaking instead of silently accepting. Daniel became more involved at home, and the children continued to visit me every weekend. One afternoon, my granddaughter asked me a question. Grandma, why don't you come every time Mommy asks anymore? I smiled. Because Grandma has her own life too. She looked confused. But don't you love us? I hugged her. More than you know? Then why do you say no? I smiled. Because sometimes saying no is healthy. She thought about it. Then she nodded. Okay. Children understand more than adults sometimes realize. A year after that Friday night phone call, something happened that made me realize how much had changed. It was another Friday evening. I was preparing dinner when my phone rang. Claire. I answered. Hi? Hi, Mom. Her voice was warm. Can I ask you a favor? I smiled. Of course. What do you need? Would you be able to watch the kids tomorrow afternoon? What time? From 1 to 4. I looked at my calendar. I can. Are you sure? Yes. Thank you. There was a pause. Then she said, and Mom. Yes. I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For teaching me that love and obligation aren't the same thing. I didn't know what to say. She continued. I used to think that because you loved us, you should always be available. And now I understand that if someone helps me, I should be grateful, not entitled. I smiled. That's all I ever wanted you to understand. I wish I had listened sooner. So do I. We both laughed. Then she said goodbye. I placed the phone on the table. For a moment, I remembered that first phone call. The demanding voice. The sentence, you'll babysit because I said so. And my one answer, no. At the time, I thought I was simply refusing to babysit. I didn't realize I was refusing something much bigger. I was refusing to be treated as though my time had no value. I was refusing to feel guilty for having boundaries. I was refusing to believe that being a loving mother meant sacrificing myself whenever someone demanded it. And most importantly, I was teaching the people around me how I expected to be treated. That Friday night taught me a lesson I will never forget. Kindness without boundaries can turn into expectation. Generosity without limits can turn into entitlement. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can say to someone isn't yes. Sometimes it's simply no. Not because you don't care. Not because you're angry. Not because you want revenge. But because you finally understand that your life, your time, and your dignity matter too. And sometimes, one small no is enough to make people finally appreciate all the thousands of times you said yes.